Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of World Talks on TVP World. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee, and please join me and my guests in this next interview. A highly anticipated conversation between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin has raised alarms in Ukraine and across Europe. At the same time, President Zelenskyy has replaced Ukraine's chief of the general staff, adding another layer of uncertainty to the country's military strategy. What do these developments mean for Ukraine's defense and its relation with the West? Now, joining us today on TVP World to discuss this is Oleksiy Goncharenko, Ukrainian MP from European Solidarity, a very vocal advocate for Ukraine on the international stage. He has been actively countering Russian propaganda and rallying Western support. Hello, sir. Bless you, and welcome to TVP World.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we say in our country that it means that what you said was true.
All right, and I hope you are doing very well. Now, we are turning our attention to the situation between the discussion that's going to happen very soon, hopefully, between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. What's the Ukrainian reaction? What are you expecting to come out of this talk?
Very important moment, and what we are waiting from this is peace, but not a surrender. This is very important. And what is the difference? The difference is, from my point of view, in respecting of Ukrainian red lines, which are non-recognition of occupied territories. Second thing, respect to Ukrainian sovereignty, meaning that it couldn't be any limitations on Ukrainian army, on what Ukraine, in what alliances Ukraine can move, and so on. And three is security guarantees. If Donald Trump will give us a deal which is inside this, that's great. If not, that would be a catastrophe because we will not accept it and the war will continue.
All right, and looking at the demands from the Russian side right now, it's plainly absurd to say the least. They're demanding basically more land than they already have occupied, and also Ukraine to essentially demilitarize itself, which isn't really, rational demand. Do you think that there might be some concessions on Kyiv's side that is not willing to accept that might be agreed upon within this negotiation?
Well, it's normal Russian strategy to try to take everything, to raise the stakes as much as possible. But I think that United States has enough leverage on Russia to make them reasonable, if they will really want. Again, if not, if it will be kind of proposition for us just to surrender, that will not happen. We will not accept it, and that's it. But we want peace, and I think we need peace as soon as possible here in Ukraine. So I hope very much that Donald Trump will act from these interests and and he knows how to speak with the Russians. The only language Russians understand is the language of strength. So I heard some things from DC which were good when they said that we can dramatically increase sanctions on Russia and things like this. Russia is really very, very vulnerable economically. Their economy is suffering from the sanctions, from the war. So this is the big leverage that the United States has.
All right, and moving on to the change of staff within Ukraine, there's a recent decision to replace the General Chief of Staff. Does it signal any changes going forward? What can we expect from that?
That is, I can't say that this is a big story because head of general staff in Ukraine, definitely it's high-ranked military person, but it's not the highest. The highest is, you show him now on video, this is chief commander of Ukrainian army, General Syrsky. So for the moment, he is not changed. There are rumors that he can be changed too. That will be a big change. During this war, during this full-scale invasion, Ukraine had just two chief commanders of military. First, General Zelenskyy, who is now ambassador to the United Kingdom, and now General Syrsky. Mm-hmm. So if General Syrsky will be changed, that will be a big story. This change of head of general staff, it's really not a big story.
Right, that's actually a very interesting thing that I want to pick your brains on because, what you mentioned, this change of staff is actually not that big of a deal, but it has garnered some Western attention with this particular personnel change. Do you think that there's a lot of attempt at trying to read the tea leaves and trying to insinuate what is going on within the country and how this negotiation is going to go, where people are reading into things a little bit too much?
Maybe that's really a moment because of negotiations and a lot of attention. Again, a lot of attention to what's happening in Ukraine because it's always like waves. When something big is happening, there is a lot of attention, a lot of media coverage. Then for months, not really. So now is the moment when again Ukraine is on the first pages. So any move is taking is receiving a lot of attention, maybe even too much sometimes.
But do you think that could come in a kind of positive form in garnering more support internationally?
I think that's important. That it's always good when the country is on the front pages in our situation because we are fighting. We are fighting very hard war, but the war not just for us, but for international order, for the whole Europe. So when Ukraine is again on the first pages, it's good. Because I can tell you it was near half year ago, I think, and I was in Europe for meeting in the parliaments and so on. And some people whom I met were just asking me, "Oh, you still have the war?" I said, "Yes, nothing has ended." And people were quite surprised. So media coverage in today's world is very, very important thing.
All right, and I want to turn our attention also as well to the Kursk region now. There's several reports about the situation that's going on over there, and a lot of reports are also saying that the Ukrainians are losing ground. Is that going to be an issue going forward if they cannot hold on to that region, and would that damage Ukraine's chances when it comes to the negotiation that's coming up?
Yeah, unfortunately, recently we lost almost all territories that we occupied and controlled in Kursk region from August of last year. So that's not good, but it's not a catastrophe. And this is the war. The lines are changing. Somewhere you're losing, somewhere you are approaching. So I can't say that this is a big story which will influence negotiations heavily. With the Kursk region, it was kind of Ukrainian bargaining chip, and now we lost it. But in general, I think it doesn't change much.
All right, so with both the war and the discussions, the peace negotiations at a very critical stage, can you let us understand or help us know what does Ukraine need the most right now from his allies to give it the best chance possible?
Taking into account the wavering of American support to Ukraine, the most important from our European partners now is military support. And it's important not just for Ukraine, but for Europe itself. The question is very open. If the United States will withdraw from Europe, who will protect Europe from Russia? And if nobody, it means that Europe should be strong enough to stop Russia itself. And this is a big challenge. And unfortunately, still, even after all these years of full-scale invasion in the middle of Europe, Europe still did not ramp up military production as it should. Europe is still not militarizing as it should. Now we hear new programs, rearm Europe. My question is, but 3 years, which were like a lot of time, and unfortunately, much of this time was lost. I think it's time to make lessons for Europe, or it will be too late.
Right. And I got another question. There's been a pause in military support flowing into Ukraine earlier, and it seems to have resumed. Can you help us clarify what's the situation when it comes to the transport hub of Rzeszów? Is the military supply flow back to usual, or do you see any disruption because of the pause?
Military floor is restored, but we're speaking about decisions on military supply which were made during President Biden administration. So already for 2 months, because President Trump is in his office for 2 months, there is no one new decision on military supply to Ukraine. So this floor is in any way drying away, because what was stopped, what was the stuff which was ordered to be delivered to Ukraine by last American administration. A new American administration is not making any decision on this.
Right, so we'll have to see how that shapes out. In the meantime, thank you so much for your input and insight and help us clarify the situation. Really appreciate it. Thank you. And thank you for tuning into this edition of World Talks. But for more news, update, and commentary, please stay tuned to TVP World.